welcome back to another episode of Nerd Best Friends. This is Annalise, and I'm here with my best friend, Rob.
Hey, it's me, Rob, your best friend, your podcast host, and your vacation vagabond. How's it going, Annalise?
It is episode 18. This is our second 2 of 2 of our summer check-ins, just kind of talking about and riffing about stuff we're doing nerdy over the summer.
Yeah, it's super fun. We've got some time off and we're getting to do some of our nerdy things that you don't have time for when you're on the grind and all of that good stuff. We've been so busy this summer generating content, and season 2 is going to be outstanding. Thank you so much for sticking with us to the bait. You're going to knock your socks off with season 2.
There's so much content right now that it warranted us doing one more summer check-in. Otherwise, we're going to run out of space to talk about things in the regular season. Please like, share, follow us on the social medias at Nerd Best Friends. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast content. Give us a rating. Please, please, please help us build our audience by letting other nerds know we're your best friends too. That being said, let's jump right into it, Rob.
First thing on your list, summer catch-up, what you've been doing, Annalise.
On the last episode, we talked about going to Free RPG Day. RPG Day has passed. Wow, what a story we have for that. Starting with the fact that the closest nerd store or comic store or game store that was participating in Free RPG Day was very far from us.
Here's something you got to know about Rob. I've been to a lot of game stores. I've been to a lot of comic book shops, and I feel like they're always just, they're small businesses. They're small mom and pops just trying to do their best. So when we looked at the website and it said that the nearest participating Free RPG Day was 57 miles away or 80, how far was it?
60
miles away.
I can find it.
I didn't believe it. I was like, oh, no. We'll just go to the close one and see, which we did. We walked in to our friendly local game store. Hey, Jim, how's it going? Oh, it's going good. What can I help you guys with? Well, it's Free RPG Day. And he kind of looks at us sheepishly and he says, it is.
We didn't get
However, we didn't get anything. Like, gosh dang it, Jim. Okay. So, all right. Then we got to make a call. No problem. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. We'll take a trip down to the next city south. They got like 3 game stores there. We'll grab some lunch. Road trip. Let's go. On the drive, you start making some phone calls.
And, oh no, we're not participating in Free RPG Day. Oh, what's Free RPG Day? Like, it was pretty absurd. I mean, we were already committed to going down to Ventura. And of course, just like when we were on our paint hunt extravaganza, we went to Toppers and Institution and had some pizza salad and a brew.
Toppers and Transmission.
Oh, I always do that, don't I? Oh, well.
We've talked about Transmission on the podcast before. They're great.
So we did that anyways, kind of going like, what are we going to do? And that's when Andrew was with us, your son Andrew was with us, and he looked up and he said, well, the closest one is another 30 miles from here, because at that point we had already traveled about 30 miles.
40
something miles to get to Ventura. We might as well go the rest of the way. So I'm going to give a shout out on the podcast to BGE Tabletop Games in West Hills, California. They were the closest. They're 68 miles. We'll round that up to 69 miles from Santa Barbara. And
nice.
It's a newer shop. We drove the other 30 miles to get there and had quite an adventure. What did you think about it?
I thought it was a great little shop. I thought that the guy running the place was super friendly. He was super helpful. He had rules for Free RPG Day posted on like the big screen TV that was in there, and he had some stuff set up, and he's like, okay, here's a couple things that are free. He's like, if you'd like to take home something from this pile, we'd ask that you run a game in the store. He's trying to generate buzz or look like he's got a community there, because it was it smelled like fresh paint when we went in there. So new.
It really did.
And so, we had to tell him all about our adventure and like, oh, we traveled so far and oh, this and that, and we got to get back. And he we let it slide and we grabbed everything from the table without having to run anything.
Well, I picked up a great game that day, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later as part of my updated nerdy stuff. But yes, he had his rules and totally understand he's trying to build the gaming community and asking people to play in store. He did give us grace because we bought a bunch of stuff to let us take a few things with us. And we were very clear. We traveled this far because you're the closest shop from Santa Barbara. Dustin is his name. Dustin opened that shop, and he mentioned he and his wife are building that shop from the ground up in West Hills, and I wish them the best of luck. I wish it was closer, but maybe
they've got a great setup there.
Yeah.
They've got some tables ready. They've got a big wall of games to play. They've got games that you can rent and take home to try out. And then the stock that he had there was impressive as well. I saw a lot of games that I had seen on Kickstarter as you look at these like luxury games and stuff that come out. Obviously active in that board game community as well, and getting those like retailer levels so that he could stock his shelves with like the new hotness coming straight from Kickstarter.
For sure. And looking on his Instagram, he's got over 1,000 followers, and it looks like he's reviewed games for a long time. So I think it's probably his personal stock that are the games that are rentable there to play.
No question.
Over the years that he's
That's
done.
how I do it.
Exactly.
Grab a game, play it a bunch, and be like, all right, now it's for rent.
So, maybe somewhere down the line, we do a trip for a day to go do something, play something there. It is a ways away, so it'd have to be something planned. But shout out to them or him at his shop, BGE Tabletop in West Hills. Go hit him up if you're in Southern California.
Or at least give him a follow on Instagram. That's free, and you'll just get pictures of cool board games.
Yeah, and go back and see his reviews of games. He does a good job, and also give us a follow if you haven't as well. So thanks to Dustin, and that Free RPG Day was a success, even with the travel.
Next thing on my list is 3D printing. I mentioned a while ago, it was shortly after the Christmas break. I want to say maybe February was when my 3D printer went down. It went kaput. We were talking about like, oh, my son needed something for like costuming. And enough, the printer went down. That was months and months ago, probably about 6 months ago. So it has been a barren wasteland as far as creating in this home. However, that did give me the opportunity this summer to look around at what I had that I had printed and maybe not finished or not painted as well. So, okay, well, as I'm saving up for my next printer or as I'm figuring out how I'm going to get this one fixed, I really need to get all of these projects that are half done finished. So sure enough, everything that I have 3D printed is now painted. All the terrain, all the little houses, all the little like cargo things and stuff that I could find in all of my boxes that I've been doing, they're done.
No way.
Coincidentally, in coincidence with that amazing feat being fulfilled, we also got not huge, but just a little bonus. A little like, hey, there was COVID and things were tough. Here's a little bonus from work. And that little amount added to what I had already saved in my 3D printer savings account. Got me over the top. So the Prusa fancy 3D printer is on its way.
Oh my gosh. It's happening. So you're telling me first, no more, what did you call it? The pile of shame?
The pile of opportunity.
Pile of opportunity. No more that, and our little COVID was hard last school year. Here's a little boon. Helped get you a new 3D printer. And it sounds like the Porsche of 3D printers, if I may.
Yes, exactly right. It is. Man, I've just been watching YouTube review after YouTube review about this very expensive printer, but all of them say, like, I watched one yesterday that really put me over the edge where it was like, it went part by part and said like, well, this part, if you buy it separately, costs this amount, and this fancy part costs this amount, and like built the 3D printer from scratch. And was like, it's that expensive, it's like, it costs this much, and then, it's $150 more than just the parts, and you get the 9-point mesh leveling system, and you get 24-hour customer support, you get all of these
things.
And the
warranty, and yeah.
I gotta do it because all of the printers that I've had previous to this, and I think this is going to be like my 6th printer, have been from companies overseas in parts of Asia or Kickstarters or little companies, from Kickstarters and stuff that kind of made this thing and then they disappeared. There's never been any kind of support or any kind of like, hey, could I get a replacement part or send this in for a diagnostic? And there's definitely nothing around here. There's not a service option. Like we don't have, I would love to hear if anybody knows about cities that have 3D printer shops where they sell and maintain and service printers. There's no place I can take my machine and be like, it doesn't work, help me, kind of thing. So
well, it's such a newer, I mean, it's not very new, but it is a newer type. It's not like those shops exist in many places. So
right.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
definitely a specialty.
Yeah, in my research, there are definitely 3D printer shops, but those are shops that are servicing industry, right? Like, you have an industrial 3D printer in your machine shop that you make prototypes and things for. Like, that service is available for sure.
Right.
But like, the Geek Squad, the little place where you used to take your computer in, like, help me.
Right. Right.
People, this doesn't work. Just doesn't exist, at least around here. I think I will be a lot of what I'm paying for is that like warranty and customer support and that kind of thing but I'm very excited. I'll be 3D printing again in just a few weeks.
Well, I am equally excited because I have a list of projects for you for my own
Get in line.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have some things, but obviously I'm not going to take advantage of your 3D printer too much.
No. The family too. It's like, oh, you know what? Ever since your 3D printer went down, I've really been thinking about, I need organizational boxes for these drawers and I need little hangings for these kinds of brushes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I'm excited for you. That is super exciting. I've missed it. And now you get to have another backlog of pile of opportunity coming up.
Maybe I'll come up with a system where I print something for myself and then while I get it painted, I do a project for somebody else.
There you go.
That way I don't fall so far behind because
there you go.
I was far behind. Man, it's easy to print. The printer never stops. It prints while you're sleeping. It prints while you're at work. It prints all 24 hours a day. I sure don't paint that much though.
You do not paint. No, the painting does not come as easy. No, I think that's a great idea. Project for you, project for someone else, project for you. I think that's a good system. I wish you luck. I'm excited for you.
You wish me luck with my willpower.
Yes. Part of the things that I'm interested in you helping me with are due to the fact that I have started to purchase a few more games. And I know a handful of episodes ago, I say, I really don't see myself buying more. And we all knew that was a lie. But I am at a point.
As soon as you got the nerd room at your house and started setting up shelves and stuff.
But I can't go crazy. I do not have a 13-year-old at home who loves to play games. So we play from time to time.
Same town.
I mean, yes, we play from time to time, and I am picking up games that I am interested in to introduce to you or my partner or whoever wants to play. And it's been really cool because, you're not a horror genre fan. We've mentioned that a few times. And so the games I'm picking up are more along that realm and that genre, like the game Skeptics that I talked about before was the first Kickstarter that I saw from beginning to end about paranormal stuff. When we were at Free RPG Day, I bought Mansions of Madness.
Yes.
Which has a
that
ton
is
of
a
minis.
game that I am super interested. I've been interested in that game since I saw it on Kickstarter like years and years ago. Like I'm not a horror fan, but I love like the gothic horror and cosmic horror, like Lovecraftian stuff and like, Bram Stoker's like the old gothic stuff and that kind of early literature stuff. Love that kind of stuff because there's always cool monsters.
And same, it's a lot of where a lot of the folklore comes from with anything new that's created now can all be rooted back. That took me a while to understand too, right? Like I've been a fan of Buffy for so long. It took me really going, oh, this episode is Jekyll and Hyde. This season is Frankenstein. And then they actually have Dracula in for one episode. Looking at modern movies, modern stories, all stuff that comes out now roots back to that literature and those series of monsters that originated with people like Mary Shelley. So I'm excited for that game too.
That really goes back to a lot of kind of its almost science fiction roots when it was just burgeoning the idea of like, well, what's the story really about? Man's inhumanity to man.
Yes.
Or what's the story really about? Science gone wild and man playing God and those kinds of themes are still valid today in a modern context, but with those kind of monster movies and that literature is where those ideas were explored.
And now putting it on a tabletop game.
Yeah.
Which you now get to tell this story and live out some of that stuff in gameplay is super exciting. I was attracted to the game for all of those reasons. What would have stopped me in the past is the app-based part of it, that you have to have the app and you have to play along. But Return to Dark Tower has totally made me feel better about purchasing or investing in games that have an app content. So,
I feel the same way. Having the experience of Dark Tower and have that app-driven aspect to it, taking care of a lot of the fiddly nonsense that makes you kind of lose your focus on what it's fantastic. Hero Quest also has an app that will take care of like the dungeon master type side of it. There was another game that I saw while we were at Free RPG Day that I remember looking at the Kickstarter and be like, oh my gosh, this looks so cool. It's got a bunch of minis and it's got like leveled terrain and this looks so great. It's called Descent, and it is also one of those app-based things that I skipped on because I'm like, I don't know. It must be pretty fiddly if you have to have an app to do it. It must be really complicated. I'm like, no, I'll look at that again.
Yeah. And so I'm in the middle of painting all the minis that came in that game. I have also since purchased Betrayal at the House on the Hill, which I understand now is a pretty well-known game as well, made by some people who are D&D based.
Yeah, that comes out of Hasbro / Wizards of the Coast, and it's going to be not the same game system as those other D&D board games we play, like Legend of Drizzt, Castle Ravenloft and stuff, but similar in the sense that like you're an adventuring party, you're going to draw from a deck and lay down rooms to build the mansion as you go and that kind of stuff. They also have a D&D version of the game, which is Betrayal in Baldur's Gate, which is a Dungeons and Dragons setting. So you can play the same game, but with like a Dungeons and Dragons skin on it even.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, what attracted me to it is it's another one of those horror genre, spooky type games like Mansions of Madness. But in this case, it's drawing the tiles. So the mansion is different every single time you play. That reminded me of The Curse of Strahd, how you spent all that time last year 3D printing the different tiles that are numerically attached to a card. So when you drew a card, it was like this number. You actually grabbed the 3D printed version of that. And I thought, man, that might be a good thing to get me some 3D printed tiles of this, and they already exist. People have already made them. This is not a brand new game. So that's pretty exciting for me as a potential future project. I'm not going to get into it now. I'd really rather just play the game a few times.
And it's a super cool genre for that. Like when you're generating a dungeon or a cave system in those other games, like, oh, it makes sense. It'd be different every time because it's going to be winding and twisting underground kind of thing. But the idea of a haunted house also being different every time because of spooky supernatural weirdness is also a really good fit.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I bought a Back to the Future game, which had some minis. I have not opened it or played it, but I'm excited to try that. And then, both of our birthdays have passed since we recorded the last episode. And for my birthday, you all got me another Unmatched set from Restoration Games. This one, I think it's called the Cobble and Fog, which bases 4 characters in the Unmatched system around that turn of the century literature. It's got Jekyll and Hyde, it's got Mr. Invisible, Sherlock Holmes, and I'm going to forget the fourth. Who is the fourth?
It's Dracula, isn't it?
Oh, it is Dracula. You're right. Yes. So it has those 4 characters. And what's interesting about the Unmatched system is that you can exchange versus. I could have Buffy versus the Invisible Man or Spike versus Jekyll and Hyde. Like there's some really interesting combinations that'll be able to be had there. I don't see myself buying many more Unmatched because there's a lot of them and there's not a lot. I mean, there's like some superhero ones, but
there's a lot. They definitely got a Marvel license and they did trickling out some interesting Marvel characters with what you've collected already. I don't know that really fits your collection.
It would be odd, I think. And I'm more excited to play the Marvel Zombies game whenever we get it. So, and then of course I'm still waiting on Final Girl. It's now like October or later that we're going to be getting it, but wave 1 when it comes will be great.
Like if
early
they came
2023.
If they came out with an Unmatched box that was like Lovecraftian horrors, boom, I'd put that in your collection.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. Yeah, I agree with that. Because I don't have a 13-year-old child or, a built-in let's play nerdy games, I'm also looking at all these games that have solo play options, and the app-based games really help that.
Yeah, don't let not having a kid dissuade you from getting games, because I have a kid and he wants to play video games with his friends on Discord. He doesn't play board games.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but the solo
gameplay,
don't think
that it's a magical fantasy.
It's just a matter of justifying, right? So I can justify, this has a solo play option, so I'm going to get this game. My partner's totally okay with that. We have that nice, big, beautiful kitchen thing that's gigantic and just lay out a game. and play it. But I've been collecting some games. We bought a couple when we were traveling, and I'm really going to slow down because I'd like to actually paint and play the games. So we'll see how that goes from here. But I've been collecting some new games.
Speaking of games, and speaking of a kid who doesn't always want to play my games, one of the games that we did get was Marvel United, which was a Kickstarter game that just huge boxes of miniatures that we went in on together, my son and I. It had been sitting on the shelf for a while because, of course, the pile of opportunity stacks up, and I've gotten faster. I've definitely painted more miniatures in the last year and a half than I used to be able to, but I finally got around to painting up the first box of Marvel United, the starter, the base game, and we started playing that, and it is incredible. It's such a fun game. The minis are cute. They look great on the mat. We got the big neoprene mat and all the cards sleeved, and it looks really great on the table. It's a fun game to play. You don't win every time. It's a little bit challenging, but it's fast enough that as soon as you play, it's like, ooh, let's play again. Especially if you lose, you're only in 25 minutes or so, and it's like, oh, we can get them this time. Reset it. Let's play again. And I love that. There's a lot of big sprawling games where you set it up and you play, and win or lose, it's like, well, I got to spend half an hour cleaning this up now. Guess we're done. But Marvel United has just been tons of fun, and there's boxes and boxes and boxes of that ready to go. So I painted up the starter box. I painted up the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet expansion. I'm about halfway done painting up the Black Panther Wakanda Forever expansion.
I gotta play that one.
And so just more and more characters and more villains with their thematic schemes and cards. Really, really fun game. And a game that, it takes 5, maybe 10 minutes to set up and tear down, and, 35 minutes to play. It's a great one. Real happy with it.
Yeah, Andrew brought that over and showed it to me and my partner. We played a couple of rounds real quick while we were in between eating dinner. It was pretty cool. Can you mix and match in that too? Like, can you do Black Panther versus the other? So it's not like this is the box and you choose these characters for this game.
Each box comes with different villains, so you can kind of have that whole theme, right? But yes, you could definitely mix and match if you wanted to have, you wanted to make your own Avengers team where it's like, oh, Black Panther and Power Man and Spider-Man and Iron Man or whatever versus some other one it's all compatible. So with some of the boxes, they come with their own villains and heroes. So like for the Wakanda one, right, it comes with like 4 heroes and like the Killmonger villain. So you can even play it. It only doesn't come with the board, right? So as long as you have the board, you could play it completely as a standalone. The Infinity Gauntlet one is cool. It comes with like a giant plastic gold Infinity Gauntlet with little gems. So there's a different mechanic in there. You know how when it's the villain's turn, like they do something? Yeah. Well, when it's his turn, he'll like collect a stone, and if all the stones get placed in the gauntlet, you're gonna
game's over. Oh, that's awesome.
So there's all kinds of little fun stuff with that. But then, of course, with the Kickstarter, there was the Kickstarter stretch goals and exclusives, which is a huge brown box full of another 50-something miniatures with their own decks, both heroes and villains. So yeah, you can mix and match and get super kooky.
That's awesome. It was a fun game.
Yeah, and that's been a while. Like I said, it's been sitting on the shelf for quite a while. So if you're in a place like that game store we visited for Free RPG Day, and you see that base box of Marvel United, definitely a pickup. That's a recommendation from me. You don't need all the crazy stuff, but that base game will give you tons of fun with just those like 8 minis it comes with and the cards. It's a good one.
One thing I've been doing this summer, Rob, is traveling a little bit. I like to travel. I think a lot of people like to travel, but particularly we weren't going to travel this summer, but decided let's go spend some time somewhere. And we were looking at different places to go. A year ago, we took the train from here to Portland, Oregon, and had a good time. We thought, let's just go back there. And so we went to Portland for about a week. Since a year ago, a lot more things have either reopened or opened. So there was a lot more going on than when we went last June. But in particular, there were 2 places that I want to talk about. Well, it's technically 3, but 2 places I really want to talk about in my nerd travels because I was super excited about these things. The first one, of course, is Powell's. If you've never been to Powell's, you're talking about a city block full of books, but they also have a huge room and area of comics, graphic novels, games. They have huge displays of all these things. So looking around, this is where I bought the Back to the Future game. And then we were looking at another game, and some locals came by, and there was a couple, and the guy said, we were looking at a choose your own adventure game, House of Danger or whatever it was called. That's based off of a real book from when we were growing up from Choose Your Own Adventure. They stopped and go, oh, we've had tons of hours of fun play on this game. We really recommend it. So we ended up picking it up. I had said something to my partner like, oh, well, we'll play this in the timeshare later. And this other lady standing there and goes, oh, have you heard about Mock's boarding house? And we were like, what? And I think intern Joan, actually, who lives in Oregon, in the Portland area, had mentioned it and I had forgotten. But this lady just says, oh, yeah, it's right down the street. It's walking distance from here. It's a place you can go and wrap it, or you can even rent it and play games. So I go. My goodness, Rob, you want to talk about nerd travels for nerd best friends? This place is mind boggling. It is huge. So we walk a few blocks and we go to Mock's boarding house. When you first enter, it is a gigantic board game store. Huge. Like, get lost in. And they have games, every game you could possibly imagine, give or take. Obviously, I did check for you on those rare games that you're looking for. And they were like, oh no, those are really rare. Huge, like the most amount of paints, mini painting stuff that I've ever seen in one place. They had 4 big Warhammer setups and with a little sign like, this game starting at 6, this game starting at 7. Like, it was like going to Games Workshop times 4 because of the amount of stuff they had. Then you go to this next little area, and this is where they had sleeves of all different sizes on the walls and things you can buy to help organize your games and whatnot. And within that section, they had 4 tables and people were just out playing games. Behind the register, they have a wall of games you can rent, and from family games to the craziest D&D role-playing, really hardcore games and everything in between. Then they have another section that has these long tables. You can maybe fit 8 to 12 people, and they were full of people playing games. And then they have a bar and restaurant that you can take the games and sit. This is where they want you to have the food and drinks. You can sip on some local brews, get some food, and play games. It was so much fun. It was so much fun to go there and play some board games. And it's at one point, it started getting a little loud, a little obnoxious, but place was packed. Place was hopping and people having fun playing games. It's an experience unlike anything I've seen when it comes to tabletop gaming. And partly is that I'm new to it. So I've not seen big tables of people playing games. I've not seen, other than like our group of friends playing something, or like one Warhammer game I tried was with like you and Andrew and one of his friends. To see this table of people who reserved and brought their army and had it certified that they were in the right point system, and then they were playing, like, it was amazing to see. It was so much fun.
That's so cool. Someday I'll make it out there. That is now I've been wanting to go to Portland anywhere because of its amazing craft beer scene, but knowing that there's a place like that full of bookstores and board game stores and this amazing place, it's gotta happen.
We're gonna scrap the Pinball Hall of Fame in Vegas, and I'm gonna make it happen. We're going to Portland. The second piece happened accidentally, but also on purpose. So a year ago, I found out there was this place that was like a barcade. I wanted to go to it, but they hadn't reopened from the pandemic yet. And they were actually set to reopen like 2 days after we left a year ago. So it's my birthday. My partner did a bunch of surprises for me. We go on this like jet tour that spins around in circles and gets you all wet. And we're like, it was fun. So much fun. And we get out and we're what to do next? It's, it's only 4:00. You have the whole rest of the day. What do you want to do? This is open for you. And I said, you remember that barcade? We're looking for it. And another local goes, oh, you're talking about Ground Control. Or there was another one, Coin something or other. I can't remember the name of it. But I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. So we looked it up and they're like, yeah, they're at a new location that reopened. It's huge. It's got 2 floors, blah, blah, blah. I go and we order a lift to come get us. And I look up their website. On the night of my birthday, they have a pinball tournament. And I love it. We talked about this before. I love pinball. I've never been in a pinball tournament. It was only $5 to join. So I'm like, what the heck? It's my birthday. Let's do it. So I go there, and pinball tournament's crazy. First of all, let me tell you, this place has a whole league, like a bowling league, where they have teams that come in once, like on Saturdays they come in, and there were people with like noise canceling headphones, and they had like their whole stance, and like one guy had his player card attached to his hip on a little like one of those zippy things. So he swiped his card and zip, it went back. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. But that was so much fun. And we were there for a bunch of hours playing pinball and arcade games. And you don't have to worry about quarters and all that stuff because it's card based. So you put money on a card, but we got an unlimited card for an extra $5 for doing the pinball thing. So we just got that, and we're just going all over the place with it. So, and local brews. and they've got like some snacky foods and stuff. And we were there for a bunch of hours. It was so much fun. And I placed 12th.
Continue with the story because you were successful. You were successful in the tournament. You talk about all these guys that come in. Like, I have never been to a pinball tournament, but I enjoy going to, like, we have like an indoor go-kart place in Southern California that I've been to a few times. And, you know, you go in with your friends. I go maybe once every couple of years and it's like, oh, let's have some fun. But inevitably, the guys come in with like their own custom helmets and the fire suits, and they're like in it to win it, and they're just lapping me all the time. You know, right. I'm like concentrated on my friend's bumper. Like, if I take this next corner just a little bit better, maybe I can eke up on my friend. Meanwhile, like, zoom. I'm just getting lapped by these like pros at the golf cart shop.
That's where you walk away with your paper. You're like, I may have placed 7th, but I'm first among my friends.
Exactly. So, but despite all these pros showing up at the pinball tournament, tell us about how you did.
Well, I've played pinball forever. You may not remember this, but anytime, like when we went on field trips, especially like with jazz band, we'd go to like Vegas and Reno. All my money was at the pinball arcades when they used to have those in the casinos. They used to have the big pinball arcade. I remember the Luxor when it first opened, or the first time I went there, they had a whole pinball wall against one of the sides, and I just spent all my time there and all my money there. So I've loved pinball forever. I don't know if it's a secret, but the only thing I really like to do with these games is get the multi-ball. So all I ever do when I play pinball is focus on how do I get the multi-ball, and however many points I get, right? And so that's how I approach this. So what they did is, it was a website-based system. So you had to go to the website so you can see what game you were assigned to. But you had 5 rounds, and there were 4 people at each game. So you had a randomly assigned game each time, and randomly assigned group of 4 people. And that gave you the order that you went in. And I also didn't know pinballs do this, but if you put multiple credits and press the start button that many times, you get all the scores on the board at once. So for a 4-player game, you put 4 credits, 4 swipes or whatever, and then you press the start button 4 times, and you get 1, 2, 3, 4 scores.
I had no idea.
Player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. I had no idea either. Player 1 went, ball 1. When their ball lost, player 2 went, ball 1. Player 3 went, ball 1. Player 4 went, ball 1. And then player 1, ball 2. And you did that until the game was over.
Can you do that at any pinball machine, do you think? Or is this like something they have to figure out at the tournament? So if I go into like my local brewery that has a couple pinball machines and try it, do you think it'll come up 1, 2, 3, 4 like that?
I think, or maybe they have a tournament mode, but yeah, we're gonna have to go find out. But it was really cool, and they were randomly assigned games, so I don't know if those machines were just set up to do that in tournament mode or whatnot. But it was pretty cool. The first round, this guy's wearing his noise canceling headphones, and I felt bad because he was like, I think he was last to go or third to go, and I had no idea what I was doing, so I started asking him questions, and finally he takes out one of those little like bean looking earbuds. He takes them out and he goes, what? I'm like, I'm so sorry, I've never done this before, can you help me? He was totally cool. I think he's the guy who ended up winning the whole thing. He was really he was the one with on his hip. He was really good. So he explained it to me, and I went, and that one, I was last to go in that first round, and I ended up in second place in that round. So that was pretty cool. So second place got you like 5 points or something. First place got you 7 points, whatever. We go to the second round. I did not do well the second round. I don't remember the game, but I placed 4th in that round. And then we go to, I want to say
how many? 4th out of
4. Each group of 4. Right?
Of your group. Okay.
Yeah.
But total, how many groups of 4 were there?
There was 27 or 28 players total.
Sure. So 7 groups.
However many groups, it was like 7 groups, whatever it is. More than that. Yeah. I can't remember if it was a 3rd round or 4th round. I'm downstairs at a Star Wars game that I've never played before, and I'm first to go. So I'm just kind of looking at it. Okay, my only goal is to go and get the multi-ball. So I'm playing, and I realize as I'm on ball 1, I'm like, man, I've been here for a little while, and I don't ever look up. I know there's a ton going on the screen, and there's probably bonus points that I missed, but I'm just looking, I'm like trying to get the multi-ball, trying to get it. And I'm there for a while. And finally I lose ball 1. And the other 3 in my group were like, whoa. And I look up, and I scored like 149 million on the first ball. They didn't even come close. I think the closest, I didn't do as well the next 3 balls. I ended up at like with 160 million, and the closest was like 110 million. And so we get to the end of that one, and the general manager was in this group. He's like, I play this game all the time. I can't believe it. And he looked at me, goes, I signed you up. This is your first time doing a pinball tournament, right? I'm like, yeah. And I don't mean to be rude, but this was the first time I've ever played this game. And he was like, what? And he was, he wasn't angry. He was just messing around, but he was a cool dude. But yeah, that was really fun to place first in that group of 3 guys who've played that game consistently at that barcade and then beat them on that. So I got first in that round. And then we get to the last round. I didn't know this at the time, but I was first for the first 2 balls, and then I screwed up the third, and I ended up in second place, I think, of that last group. I was standing there, and the first 2 balls, I was ahead of them all, and I kind of turned around, and there was a girl, and she was like, oh, don't mind us. We're all on a team that competes every week, and you're beating us all. So you want to join our team? And I'm like, I don't live here, but I would totally. But that was kind of funny. And then I screwed up on the third ball of that one and ended up second place. But I ended up 12th out of 27, right? Kind of a little above middle. And I thought that was really cool. It was just really fun.
Absolutely.
I wish we had a place like that here because I would probably lose all my money playing pinball all the time.
Very, very cool. This summer, we got new contrast paints from Citadel. So in the miniature painting world, this was a huge deal, right? Everybody was testing out these paints and super excited about the new contrast paints to come out. There was a new shade line as well. So I think we got 25 new paints and like 8 new shades to add to the collection that came out a few years ago. Of course, I was super excited about it. As soon as they're like, oh, we got new paints, I'm like, well, I guess that's what I'm doing this summer. I'm going to get them all. But then, nerding out like I did, of course, all the big miniature painters online and the influencers and the YouTubers and all this stuff, they got the paints early. Yes, so there were so many videos of like, oh, testing this shade and looking at this color and these kinds of things. And these are single pigment paints versus these are mixed paints and how do they look different and those kinds of things. So rather than picking them all up, I, of course, made like a gigantic spreadsheet and watched a bunch of different reviews and like made a point system for myself. So I didn't spend a ton of money. So I probably ended up with 20 out of the 32 or so offerings that came out. And I'll probably pick up those other ones, piecemeal. But what was super fun about that is, I pre-ordered them and they came on time. They were here and it gave me an excuse to play a lot of my miniature painting because I've got such a backlog of things. It's very list oriented, right? It's very much like, okay, I got to finish this board game. So I'm going to paint these minis in this order. I'm going to get tired of painting Space Marines. So once I finish this squad, I'm going to move over to this other game and I'm going to paint the squad of like the Wakanda guys for Marvel United. And then I'll go back and paint these Space Marine bikers. And then I'm going to go back to this other board game and paint that. Then I'll circle back around to the next Marvel United box. And it's very like prescripted because I try to keep myself on task. I thought that that would be a good idea as far as getting stuff done. But once all these new paints came in, I was like, I'm gonna have some fun. And we had kind of messed around with the idea of skirmish games and army games after we went to the Warhammer store. And so I had pulled out a bunch of miniatures to make a little like undead type army that maybe, I was kind of kicking around like, oh, we'll play some 1-page rules and I could get all this stuff. I had also dug out a bunch of terrain that I had as part of a set while I was going through that terrain in like this big like crypt and graveyard set and all these statues and fountains and stuff. And I was like, oh, that'll be perfect. And so I was looking through all those and I found these minis that are like jack-o'-lantern pumpkin head guys. I'm like, oh, this would be perfect for these like bright colors, right? Because one of the things I was excited about with the new paint line is yellows and oranges. Yellows especially. Yellow is my kryptonite when it comes to miniature painting. I've never had any success. I'm glad to say the yellows that came in this, I think have solved my problem. I think I will never be afraid of yellow again and I can't wait to keep using it. No, it's phenomenal. So yeah, I just got a handful of minis, skeletons, zombie wolves, jack-o'-lantern people, vampires, and I've just been slapping new colors as often as I can on them. It's been away from my list, and it's been just some kooky minis, and I've had a ton of fun doing it.
We actually posted those on our social media, so if you haven't seen them yet, listeners, they are amazing. So
speaking of which,
about those jack-o'-lanterns.
Last night, I finished the leader. I finished your champion for your army.
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah, there's a teaser.
We got to post a picture
That'll
of that.
Be
That
posted.
is amazing.
You can't see it, but oh my gosh. It's a super fun mini.
That's super cool. I'm excited. I'm excited for you. Do you recommend the yellow for me, who I'm also having 100%. Trouble with yellows? Okay. 100%. Oh, yeah. Look at how much that yellow pops. Oh, yeah. So good. For the listeners, it's like insane. a dude kind of hunched over, big guy kind of hunched over with his jack-o'-lantern face. And he's got a big weapon in his hand and he's menacing and it looks really cool. It's almost like a scarecrow. Is that what's coming out of his sleeve? It's like that's like a scarecrow jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. That's amazing.
So that'll be
your
commander. It's insane.
I'm excited
Tons of
for
fun.
you. Well, while you've been painting, I have also been painting, but not as well as you because I'm so new to it. And I have not gotten into the let's listen to this audiobook, let's listen to this podcast while I'm painting. So what I did while painting some stuff is I started to rewatch the television series Friday Night Lights. I watched it a long time ago. I remember being impressed. What was impressive about it is one of the main characters, who's the head coach, is thrown a lot of good situational decision making as a leader, where there are moments in this show that actually have formed a lot of my leadership because of he has to balance integrity, morality, and the pressure to win in Texas. It itself is, teeny bop dramatic show, but there's these real situations that he's placed in as a head coach that have been really good. So that was cool to see. And I just bring it up because it reminded me the type of leader that I am. And it was fun to be able to have something on to remind me of that, a little bit of that positive reinforcement while I'm painting and doing a bad job at it. If there are listeners that are into sports, I mean, I'm a sucker for sporty shows, sporty movies, especially when it comes to football. The movie itself, Friday Night Lights, it's okay, but the series does a really good job of presenting these real life challenges that leaders or head coaches have to face. And that was cool to listen to while I was painting.
I was very patient while you went through this and let you, get all of that out. And now that you are finished with talking about how great the show, I'm going to tell you that this is some bullshit right here. I cannot believe you were sitting there rewatching some basic ass network TV show about sports and put it on your nerd list. Have you watched Hawkeye? Have you watched freaking Moon Knight? Have you seen a single episode of, I don't know, Star Trek? And you're rewatching some basic ass freaking show and you're going to put it on your things you did nerdy this summer?
See, I was prepared for you to say that.
Uh-huh.
And in my defense, I put it on because I don't have to watch it while I'm painting. That's where I struggle. I can't have something. I tried having What If on because I haven't even finished What If. So I tried having What If on, but I kept looking up to watch what's going on the screen and pay attention to what's going on the screen. So that's why it's a rewatch. And I'm going to put probably Buffy on to continue painting for the 900th time starting episode 1 because I can't watch it while I'm painting. I can't. And that's why I don't have the audiobooks. Because I'm going to start listening to the audiobook and not paying attention to what I'm doing. So
that is something that happens. I watch paint. Well, that's not true. I watch painting videos while you're painting because I always kind of pick something up. But you're right. I definitely will stop and stare at the screen to look at the technique or whatever. But that is also where I get a lot of my, like when I listen to actual play podcasts, like that's when I watch Critical Role or shows like that. Right. Because, like every once in a while they'll put down a cool map and you want to look at it for a second. But other than that, it's a good like 4-hour chunk of content that I can mostly listen to.
I'm still trying to catch up. I know Thor is out now and I'm so far behind, but I can't catch up while I'm painting.
I watched Doctor Strange again.
I think I'll get there.
Apropos of nothing, I think Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness is my favorite Marvel movie.
Ooh, even more than the latest Spider-Man?
Yes.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge.
Yes.
Have you seen Thor?
No.
Thor 4?
Thor 4.
On the floor?
I have not.
Okay.
You know the situation around here.
Yes,
We're not going out to things. No, I'll catch that one on Disney Plus when it shows up. However, I am excited about it. What I did do was I reread the God Butcher storyline that movie is based on in preparation for seeing it. I've probably read that 3 times now, which I never do. When it comes to comic books, like there's so many, like I'll read and be like, oh, that one's really cool. I'm going to put, remember that to recommend to somebody else. This one I have read 3 times because I learned so much. It is the best Thor book ever.
Yeah. I have not read. I know nothing except what's been on the previews, so I'm excited to watch it too.
Comic-Con this summer. It's back. Check it out. Things coming out at Comic-Con this summer that was exciting to follow. The whole layout for all of the Marvel TV shows and movies all the way through phase 6. I guess we're finishing up phase 5 now. We're almost done. And then laid out everything coming through phase 6 over the next 5 years, ending with a Fantastic Four movie. That was like the big reveal. Tons of cool shows coming on Disney Plus. Daredevil's getting a show on Disney Plus with the same cast from the Netflix series is now going to do a Disney Plus series on there. And it is based off of a very famous book by Frank Miller, who we've talked about before as well. That looks really cool. Blade is getting another movie. They're going to reboot that. Marvel's going to be the next thing that spins out of the Ms. Marvel TV show, which is going to be great. It's going to be Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel all teamed up. That'll be a movie.
That's fantastic.
That'll be really rad. Ant-Man 1, I think, is coming out soon. The She-Hulk trailer looked incredible. It's got Mark Ruffalo all over it and stuff, which is really fun. There's going to be an Echo series, which is like, that made me totally laugh. I'm like, what? That's insane. But that's cool.
The Wakanda Forever trailer came out.
The Wakanda Forever trailer came out.
Yeah.
Another trailer with a creepy cover of a 70s song and looking at it and having like no idea what the heck is happening with that movie or what they're doing. But hey, might be good.
I mean, and my understanding is it's following some of the storyline with Chadwick Boseman having passed away. I don't know if that happens in the Black Panther comics, but I do know some of that storyline is being used from the comics to kind of replace him in there's and it's all rumors and stuff that you kind of read, so who knows, but like in the comics his sister did take over the Black Panther role for a while, but in real life that actor was very problematic during the pandemic and I think walked off the set, so I don't know that's really the thing. Like, we'll see, who knows. To go backwards to go forwards, do you have cool colors for the Black Panther set of Marvel United? Now, like some cool silvers and purples, and I don't know what
actually the purple was another thing that was a big improvement with the new set. The purple is actually really good too, because in the original set there was a really, really dark, almost black purple and a really, really light, almost pink purple. Okay. Now in the new set there's a perfect, beautiful
like purple. Yeah.
So that's really
very cool.
So there was a ton of Marvel stuff. Of course, we got the Dungeons and Dragons movie trailer, which was probably like the most exciting thing to see and to start all that kind of stuff. On the DC side, there was like the Black Panther starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson trailer. That kind of stuff came out. Teen Wolf, I'm sure you're excited about that. The Teen Wolf trailer came out, not starring Michael J. Fox as far as I can see.
I actually don't know anything about this, but that would be the second. There was another Teen Wolf show out for a while, so they're coming back again.
Oh, that's right. There was like an MTV show about Teen Wolf, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right.
What I do know is that Buffy was there. Sarah Michelle Gellar was there, making an announcement that she's on something, and I don't remember what it is.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I saw Bill Murray is going to be MODOK in the Marvel Universe.
Oh, geez.
That's ridiculous.
That sounds like fun. Comic-Con.
I'm
glad it's back.
Late July, there's always plenty of things to see on your social media feed if you're subscribed to all this nerd stuff. That's for sure.
We did a 4-person game of Return to Dark Tower. And listeners, if you're tired of hearing about this, I don't care, because the game is that good. But I was excited to play a 4-player game. It was really fun. We mirrored the iPad app to your giant television and played some awesome campaign music, and it just had a good time. It was really fun to finally get a full 4-person game, and it was the first one.
I thought it was super fun. I love that game. I've not had a bad time playing that game. And every time we play, I have more thoughts about how to play it next time and wanting to play it again. It is super fun. Their relaunch campaign is going on right now. Depending on how fast we can get this edited and out, if you're interested in the Dark Tower, go over to Kickstarter.
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well. I will be purchasing the newest expansion, but anyone who doesn't have the game is interested, Backer Kit. It's on Backer Kit instead of Kickstarter this time. If you have the game but didn't get the Neoprene board, go get the Neoprene board. Highly recommended. If you got the game and the Neoprene board, but you didn't get the expansions or the Dark Horde minis to play the monsters, go get yourself that.
100% get the monster minis.
All of that is available. I really like the 4 new warriors they came up with, and it's going to come with 2 more villains or situations, and they've added some things, including some new skulls that cannot be cleansed from a building, and there's also a format you don't have buildings at the start of the game, but you have to earn them and build them. Like, there's some cool mechanics that they're adding to the game, so I'm excited.
Would you agree with me that if you were someone who was like, man, I've been hearing about this game, it looks cool, I want to get started with it, I would say the base game And then add-on wise, the neoprene board for sure, because it just makes everything so much easier. And then the Horde miniatures.
I would agree with that at minimum.
You could have forever hours of fun with that much.
I agree, because I haven't even played any of the initial expansion characters. There's 2 more characters in there and some other situations. I haven't even gotten into that yet. And I've had the game for however long. So, and it'll be some time before the second expansion comes. So there is plenty of gameplay with just the base game. And if you want the extended experience, get the neoprene board, because it's so much better than the cardboard game board. You're right. The Dark Horde minis just add life when you have that giant dragon, or you don't really grasp how dangerous Titan is until that Titan is there towering over all of the other characters. So at minimum, it's a great game, and you don't even have to be super nerdy about tabletop games to get into it. You don't even have to paint the minis if you don't want to. And in itself, it's just a great game, and I hope it wins a bunch of awards, because they deserve to. It's so well thought out.
I imagine, like, if you're just getting into it and you're getting the game and all the add-ons for the first one and the expansion from the first one and the new expansions and stuff, it's going to end up costing you $1,000, which is ridiculous, right? But so it's like, oh, if you got that base game and you wanted to know, like, what are the must-have add-ons, I would say that neoprene board and the Horde miniatures. I also really love having the plastic little chits instead of the cardboard punch outs. That's like taking it to 11. If you want a 10 out of 10, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, they call that add-on the coffers. Mm-hmm. So I think it's not very expensive to add those on. And I agree, having the plastic chips there instead of the cardboard ones are great. If you're going to get the Dark Horde expansion, get the coffers too. It's another $20. But base game by itself, even if you don't buy any of the extras, is still a good game. So have at it if you haven't yet, if you're interested.
So the last thing I'll talk about is just that Dungeons and Dragons movie trailer that came out and has just been causing such a stir. It is so funny because, you know, it came out and I'm all excited. Like, oh, Andrew, come here. And I put it up on the big TV. You know, we go to YouTube and we put it on the TV and we watch it. And I mean, within seconds of watching it, like I'm going through it, the whole thing, just eyes wide open, looking for, that's a mimic. That's a displacer piece. I think those are Red Wizards of Fame. Was that in the Underdark? And Andrew looks, and he goes, so the druid turned into an owlbear, which we all know is a monstrosity and not a beast. This movie is garbage. And I laughed and laughed and laughed. I was like, oh my gosh, you are the biggest nerd. That is the funniest thing. And then, of course, I open up Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that's all I see. Memes, jokes, nerd rage, all of this stuff. I can't believe they blew the album. What a failure of the movie industry to do this. Like, just nerd rage about this owlbear scene, which just, I never have considered myself an internet troll before, but it just delighted me to no end after decades now of being a comic book reader and seeing these, like, this Marvel movie universe, billion-dollar franchise, and they change stuff all the time, right? Yes. Like, if you've read the comics that these movies are based on, there's a ton of artistic license. The powers aren't the same. The story's not the same. Like, it's just different. It's the way it is. But just the amazing amount of, like, nerd. It's a lot of virtue signaling, right? It's like, well, I have to prove that I know that there's a problem with this because I'm a D&D nerd, right? Yes. So you've got to put all your stuff. And I'm just laughing and laughing. The memes have been great. But it is funny. Like, it was the first thing we all thought. You know, all of us D&D players, we're watching, we're like going along like, cool. Is that an owlbear? Like, super funny. So, of course, you know, Andrew and I have been just doing our bits of, like, everything we said. Oh, you know what? I actually saw a sneak preview of the Dungeons and Dragons movie. And there is one part where the wizard casts a spell. And right after that, she casts another spell as a bonus action. But it's not a cantrip. Can you believe it? What a garbage. I saw this other part in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, in this one, where Chris Pine played his lute to give bardic inspiration to himself before he had to jump over this big thing. And as we all know, you can't give bardic inspiration to yourself. Rules is written. And just going off again and again.
You're just riffing,
literally, we took like a 30-minute dog walk, and that was the dog walk the whole time, just going crazy of, like, all the, like, little funny nerd things we could think about of why the Dungeons and Dragons movie is gonna be awful.
And, you know, that kind of ties into the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I won't shift to that just yet, but I wanted to talk about the plus and minus of social media in that realm. I was going to add it to the final 2 episodes of Stranger Things, which have come out since the last time we recorded. Some things that I was just joyful to see and some things that have been really interesting to see. So in that vein, spoilers ahead if you've not watched season 4 of Stranger Things, there's a big, massive scene in the final episode where one of the characters plays Master of Puppets by Metallica. And it's this amazing scene that I know you're going to love when you get there. And it's not a spoiler that's the thing, but I really love Metallica more now because they started coming out saying, you don't get to gatekeep us, all of you on social media who are downtrodden these 13-year-olds and 16-year-olds who've never heard of us before. Everyone was a new fan at some point. We welcome you all with open arms. And granted, not in those words, they've been saying it much more eloquently, but it's been really interesting to see that same type of rise of gatekeeping. Virtue signaling is another way to like make a good point. It's like those memes that say like, oh, Sean Austin because of Stranger Things, but I know him because of Lord of the Rings. And then you'll get an older person going, well, I know him because of Rudy. And then the really old people like us go, I know him because of Goonies. So like, it's that kind of, it's tongue in cheek, but also I really appreciate these groups kind of stepping up and saying like, you don't get to gatekeep this. Everyone's a new fan at some point. I would have never known there's a mistake in that or whatever. And I love that you have the ability to riff with Andrew about that. But I also love because D&D has come out with a statement saying when the new movie comes out, yeah, there's going to be problems with it. Yeah, people are going to come flock to it, but welcome them. Everyone was a new D&D player at some point.
It's a movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I really, there's that plus minus to social media, right? We can have fun with the fact knowing like, oh, Black Panther's not supposed to do this or Captain Marvel's not supposed to be able to do this. And then at the same time, we can go, well, some 12-year-old just went and bought Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel comic and now has a female superhero to follow, problematic or not. So it's been really interesting to see all of that about the Dungeons and Dragons movie trailer, as well as the stuff like with Metallica and Stranger Things. But yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny for me because there's so many new D&D fans with 5th edition, right? We are definitely in the throes of 5.5, right? They're definitely now repackaging their player's handbook and the new multiverse book as like, this is the core set anymore, to the point where like, I don't even know if you can get the original player's handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide and Monster Manual anymore. Like, it's been a very soft switch. Like 6th edition will happen and all of these nerds are going to just absolutely freak out and experience their edition wars for the first time. And I will just delight in the revelry of it because I've been through it so many times before. It's the same thing with this movie. It's like, this movie, it's just so funny. Like seeing, like after decades of these comic book movies, now there's a D&D movie and it's all happening again with like a different crowd of nerds.
And I just love that.
If you want to complain about the owl bear, just don't go see the movie.
or just that, like, we're still seeing mainstream media and entertainment continuing down the nerd path. It's so good. And I'm so glad. And I'm so glad to be where I am at right now at my age to have seen this evolution of it. Cause now the nerds are the cool kids.
For better or for worse, the Marvel movie franchise has done a very good job of maintaining just enough to keep the comic book nerds interested and excited. But, it is mainstream, right? Like those movies are the summer action blockbusters that used to be, right? It's not Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and Bruce Willis like it was, in the 80s and 90s when we were kids. Now it's, if your name is Chris, you're good.
Any guy named Chris
Pine and Chris Evans. And yeah, exactly. It's just replaced that, but for me, it's better because I love that stuff.
The plus side of it, I really enjoyed after the last 2 episodes of Stranger Things came out. There was a whole string of spoilers without context and just using random pictures and memes to describe something that happened in those last 2 episodes without spoiling stuff. And I know you said at one point you're going to watch it, so this I won't say out loud, but there's something that happens. The pencil breaks. So instead of the pencil breaking in the meme, it's, spaghetti noodle that's flailing around, and it's spoiler without context for this thing happening. And it's really, really funny. There's some really, really inventive people out there that put together it's just a whole thing you can search for. Stranger Things spoilers without context. And it's hilarious. So plus and minus of social media. That was a lot of fun to watch as people are like, don't spoil it. Oh, wait, I don't get it. I'm going to have to watch it. They watch and they go, oh, I get it. It's really funny.
You told me not to watch Stranger Things because it was going to be too scary for me. Are you backtracking on that? You think I
No,
can
no, no.
handle it?
I think it's too scary for you, but you also
That's
said
what everybody says, like, oh, if you watch Stranger Things, I'm like, my best friend told me I couldn't watch it because it was too scary.
But you also said you've
These are
watched every
13-year-olds that are asking me.
But you also said you've watched every season with your wife, so I imagine it's going to be
She already
on
watched it.
Oh, she watched it. Okay.
Mhm.
Then never mind. You're off the hook. It's actually really scary. It's scary and it's not gory. There's some hard to watch stuff. I'm a horror fan, and there was some points I'm like, ooh, oh, I can't watch this right now. I'm too scared. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm gonna go lay in bed with my partner. Like,
well,
it's
I'll watch
scary,
it during
scary.
the day while I'm painting, so I can look away at the miniature.
Yeah, but I mean, there are some things that I think you would really enjoy about the season, but they do, like I said before, they've doubled down on the horror, and it's great writing, and I can't say enough about it. And there's everything is Stranger Things crazy right now, but all deserving. It is great television, for lack of better words. And although the last two episodes are both, the last one's almost 2 hours, an hour and a half or so, they're almost like small movies, each one. And unlike some of the Marvel shows where I've said, like, really just get to the point, they do a really great job of building, and giving each character their moment to where you're guessing, oh man, that character just had their unmasked moment. That's usually the signal that they're not going to make it. So
yeah.
They do a really good job. Like,
that is definitely a trope of modern storytelling, is like, as soon as somebody kind of has their character turn, or like, oh, this guy was kind of a jerk and he just apologized for bullying that other kid, you're like, oh, that dude's going to die.
He's going to die. Yep. But they did a really good job with it. It's really good. And I will say the lead up to the last two episodes was better than the last two episodes, but that's only because they have to end it in a way. They have one more season to go to finish and round out the story. So they ended it in a way that they're like, oh, this is what's going to be the focus of next season to wrap up the story. So it was all really good. And there are some moments that I think you would absolutely love, and pause and go back and watch again some scenes. So I do recommend it, but knowing you, there's some really scary stuff. So just be aware.
That's what's been going on this summer.
We've caught up to all of our nerdy stuff, and now we can look forward to season 2, which is going to premiere very soon. Rob, what's the nerdiest thing you did this week beyond all the stuff we just talked about?
Yeah, I'm going to say the nerdiest thing I did this week was kind of the nerdiest thing that we did this summer and just finished up. And it's also a big recommendation from me. Is Andrew turned us on to a show on Netflix called The Dragon Prince. And there are 3 seasons of The Dragon Prince. It is an animated series, and it is phenomenal. It is a high fantasy series, and it is all about epic high fantasy storytelling. It is one of the few shows that I have seen that has made such a commitment to diversity and representation. And in a kids show, it transcends the kids show that it is to create really cool characters, awesome scenes, very cool monsters. It creates an awesome high fantasy world. If you're a person that looks for things like representation and modern storytelling, kind of moving genres forward, our main characters come from a blended and mixed race family. One of the main characters is deaf. All different variabilities of accents and skin tones and abilities and all kinds of things just seamlessly weave in to the narrative and to the characters. It finishes really well at the end of the 3rd season. From top to bottom, you see character arcs and you see the story play out. I cannot recommend it recommended enough. It's a double recommendation because if you have kids, if you're a family person, it's a great show to watch with your family, especially if you're like, oh, I kind of like this like high fantasy stuff. Like, oh, Lord of the Rings might be a little too heavy or a little too long for my 8-year-old. Dragon Prince. Looking through, it has spun out to things. There's a Dragon Prince RPG that we're looking at picking up. There's a miniature board game that, of course, I'm like, oh my God, I got to paint up these cool Dragon Prince characters and stuff. It's a recommendation for really anybody. Like if you've enjoyed some of the other things that I've recommended in this way before, like The Bad Batch or Star Wars Rebels and things like this is going to be along the same lines. A high fantasy story that is telling stories in a modern way. I never stopped being impressed by it.
Nerdiest thing I did this week, I'm going to go with the pinball tournament for sure. That is the nerdiest thing I did this week. It was so much fun. And ground control in Portland, Oregon, I will be back for sure. I'm going to drag Rob with me and we're going to have a good old time. But thanks for the pinball tournament. They even, speaking about 3D printing, they 3D printed the little trophy for that tournament, which was really cool. Obviously, I was not anywhere close to winning it, but it was fun and nerdy and I loved it. And pinball is the best.
All right, let's get excited about season 2 and let's hear about the things that you guys have been doing this summer while we've been away. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter @NerdBestFriends in all of those places, or send a message by writing to podcast@nerdbestfriends.com, and make sure to subscribe to the show, give us likes on whatever that you're watching or listening to us on, follow, share the podcast with your nerdy friends, give us those 5-star reviews so that more and more people can find us and we can get more and more audience interaction.
We're even on YouTube now, so find us, subscribe, help us get our numbers up. That would be the best belated birthday presents for me and Rob. Season 2's coming up. It's going to be good.
Absolutely. We'll see you in season 2.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
So busy doing.
We are out of practice and also we're riffing, so it's going to be a lot of this.
And it's in the morning, time. So
here we are.
There's no craft beer of the episode. It's just all a little bit different.
I'm still drinking my coffee.
I got my coffee as well. It's a different vibe.
Perfect. But still a good vibe and still a nerdy vibe. So
we'll put some coffee shop smooth jazz in the background of this stuff and just have a different vibe to it.
Just some ambiance noise in the background. Mm-hmm. Let's do it.